Hello there, Rob. David Trungill here. Thank you for sending your swing over. So I'm going to start by taking a look at your swing from the down the line view, and I will get to some other aspects of this lesson as we move forward here. So a lot of the material I'll be going over, I'm going to be covering more than two things I would recommend working on. However, it is imperative that when you're hitting golf balls, whether it's on the range or during a practice round, you never want to have more than two swing thoughts going through your mind, even if you have more than two flaws in your swing. So I just want to point out what I see, and then it'll be up to you to decide what to work on. But again, just tackle one or two items at a time until it becomes a habit, and then you can work on the other stuff. So I would start with the takeaway. So let's go in slow motion here. So immediately, this yellow line that I have represents the plane. What I'm noticing is your club head is going well underneath the plane. So one way to fix that is to feel as if your right elbow stays pointing straight down towards the ground. And you can rehearse this at home in front of a mirror. You can do this on a range. So the bottom line is, with a takeaway, the slower the better. Keep that left elbow pointing down. And what that will do, it will minimize the rotation in your forearms so that the club doesn't get caught behind you here. Now, there are players that take the club to the inside and can still play great golf. I just think that, again, it makes the swing more complicated when you go off plane. However, at the top, you're in a pretty darn good position here. So, saw your email. I like how this right elbow is pointing down. I'm not too surprised to hear that you shot an 84. That's a solid score, certainly better than most golfers. So, arms look good. I like the club face position here. Looks nice. Now, another thing I wanted to point out, and we'll talk more about this later in the lesson here, but I'm noticing that you're lifting up your left heel. Now, players did that. If you go back and watch footage of guys in the 50s, 60s, or before that especially, a lot of the modern players that are shooting in the 70s, scratch golfers, anyone on tour, for the most part, they keep that foot planted. When you lift the heel, what generally happens is the left knee moves farther forward, and the potential concern with that is that now there's more motion required for the knee to retract, because at impact, we would like to get your hips a lot more open than this. So let me try and come down here. So let's call this impact. I would really like to see more of the back of your left leg here. So again, your hips should be opening much sooner than what they are. And then the other thing I'll note before I change camera angles is on the way down here, let's see, right about when your left arm is parallel to the ground. So this is the position we call P5. When your left arm is parallel to the ground on the way down, your right elbow is higher than your left elbow. Now, we would like to reverse those conditions in the downswing. Stay with me, because I will show you a drill towards the end of this lesson that will help a lot with that. But again, it's nice to see the club on the right forearm. But with the right elbow a little bit high coming down and trap behind you, what will happen, especially when the lower body is slow to open like this, you can see how you're in a pretty closed or even square position at this point in the swing. You're going to have a little bit of a flip release. And that will be a lot more evident from the face-on view. So why don't we switch over to the face-on view and take a look. All right, so from the face-on view here, I like your setup position. You have good looking grip. I like how your left foot is flared out. A lot of good stuff there. So from this view, the takeaway doesn't look too bad because this camera angle will not capture that takeaway going underneath the plane. If anything, you could add a little bit more width, meaning you could reach a little bit more with the arms and then turn the shoulder a little bit more, so wider and slower. But again, this is pretty good. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know. I'm just speculating here. I want to say that this camera is handheld opposed to being mounted on a tripod. It looks like that something's moving a bit. So these lines on the hips may not serve as a perfect reference point, but let's keep going back, and we're going to keep our eye on your left heel. So the left heel is going to lift, as I mentioned. So rather than having it lift, you can keep it planted. And I wouldn't mind if your left foot rolled a little bit in towards your right foot. So in other words, you could have your left thigh working in towards your right thigh. So that will allow you to make a better pivot. And when you make a better pivot, Rob, you can transfer the weight more effectively this way. So most good ball strikers, especially with the irons, you want to get more lateral advancement, because when you're coming down, it looks like you essentially have none. In this impact position that we're looking at right here, when I mentioned a flip release, so here's your left arm, right, and then the club is going here. We really would like to see the club trailing a little bit. So in other words, you have some forward lean with the club. If you look up PGA Tour numbers on TrackMan, they have a descending blow with the irons. And you don't have to be a tour player to produce that. I mean, my attack angles when I've been on the monitors with the irons is about -3. So again, we want to hit down on the ball. So part of that's the pivot, and then the other part, though, I mentioned this earlier, so watch this. So here's, right here you have some really nice wrist hinge, but you're going to lose a lot of this angle on the way down. So part of this goes with what I mentioned earlier, with the right arm being above the left arm. So I'll show you some clips in a moment here where that right elbow, we would really like to see it digging down underneath the left arm from this camera angle. So watch what happens. So the amount of wrist hinge or lag is being reduced with each subsequent frame here. So right here, again, all that angle is lost. So a little bit of a flip release, and it's going to compromise your ball striking. So the really good news is you have come nowhere near to your golfing potential. So I think your scores will go way down and improve if you work on some of these elements I'm talking about. But to make things more transparent, let me shift over, show you some other players, and then again I want to get to this drill because I think this will help you. So let's take a look here. Alright, so this is Clark Breakin. He's a friend of mine and a student, +3 index, phenomenal golfer. So let's immediately watch what goes on with that left foot. So watch as he takes the club back. A couple things you'll notice. It's creating some width here. But as you can see, the left knee is working in towards the right leg, and he's never going to lift that heel up though. So he's loading the weight right, making a nice pivot. Now, watch what happens at the top. See the hips advance laterally, and as that's happening, he's transferring the weight, and as I mentioned with that wrist hinge, so he has a lot more angle here than he did earlier on. So let's rewind the tape. So nice and wide, making a good turn, and then he's adding wrist hinge, creating lag. So there's that right elbow position squeezing in front. So again, the right elbow is lower than the left elbow at P5. So he's, again, retaining the wrist hinge. So with a driver, Rob, you will hit a little bit more up on the ball than with an iron, but even so, you can see it impact. If I were to draw a line from his left arm down, you can see that it's perfectly in line with the club. So great impact position there. Now here we have Justin Rose. So this is a drill. Notice in between his arms he has a ball. So there's a couple of product choices if you wanted to invest in this. It's not too much. There's the impact ball and the tour striker. And the idea is that you can rehearse some swings and actually just hit some golf shots. And I would recommend just little 1/2 or 3/4 swings. So the idea is when you have this ball in between your arms, you really want to squeeze on the way down, which we'll see Justin Rose do. So again, there's that right elbow, right? It's driving in front of the rib cage. And then here's that hinge that he is holding. And once again, there's a correlation. Watch the hips. You can see him driving down. Now to go back to the down the line view again, and I would recommend watching this video more than once. I just want you to get your money's worth. So watch Lucas Glover here. Now, if you watch the tour, he's in his 40s and he's still doing well. He's competing with all the young guys, but he won the US Open in 2009. So here's the plane. Now watch how he takes the club back. So as you can see right off the bat, he's tracing this plane line quite nicely. If anything, actually, the club head will be outside of the hands a bit. And if we pause him at left arm parallel on the way back, now his right elbow is higher than the left elbow here. However, he will reverse those conditions on the way down. So check this out. So there's that shallowing move. And now the right elbow is definitely lower than the left elbow over here. So let's play that again. And we can also see that his hips, like I talked about, as he's coming down into impact, there's that back of his left hamstring, so he's opening up more than you are. Really, really nice golf swing. And here's a swing of myself, Rob. So again, the plane line, let's see how I do. I'm certainly not Lucas Glover, but I'm taking the club just fractionally underneath the plane so I could work on this myself, but not too bad. So the key here again in my mind, I was just having my left elbow pointing straight down and really trying to make a slow takeaway so that the club head hits the hands there. So really, let's watch this one more time. And again, my left heel, I play with a little bit of an open stance, but I don't lift the left heel off the ground. So as a result, my left knee will probably, it's going to move forward, but not too bad or too much. And then the moment that downswing starts, which is right about here, we're going to see that left knee retract. So one thing I do reasonably well is I get very open at impact. So by the time I'm hitting the ball, we can see the entirety of my left leg. So I'm trying to keep my hips as deep as possible. And then naturally, I wanted to point out the arm action. So again, I don't set a perfect example of this, but we'll still see it. So let's watch what happens with my arms. So my elbows are relatively even at P3. But watch what happens at P5. We're going to see my right elbow squeeze in a bit. So P5 would be right there. So here's the right elbow. And then here's the left elbow. As we can see, the right elbow is a little bit lower. All right, so that will definitely give you some things to work on. Again, 1 or 2 swing thoughts at a time. Make sure to rehearse at home, get in front of a mirror at the range. I would recommend a lot of 3/4 swings. Practice these positions, invest in a impact ball or the tour striker ball. I can send you the links as to where to get that product if you're interested. And definitely send me a follow-up email. Let me know how things go. and if you have any questions. So thank you so much, Rob. Look forward to hearing from you.